He warned them to stay out. They didn't listen. So he made sure they'd never try again. Keanu Reeves had worked hard for everything he had. At 60 years old, he was proud of his home, a beautiful 2-story house in Chandler, Arizona, with a backyard that was his sanctuary. Tall palm trees lined the fence, and in the center of it all was his pride and joy, a crystal clear, perfectly maintained pool. He wasn't one to boast, but he had every reason to be proud. He bought the house on his own. No handouts, no shortcuts, just years of grinding, saving, and making smart choices. His neighborhood was a mix of families, some longtime residents, others newer. Some were friendly, others kept to themselves. Keanu didn't mind either way. He wasn't looking to be anyone's best friend. He just wanted to live in peace. But that peace, it didn't last long. The first time it happened, he brushed it off. One Saturday afternoon, he came home from running errands and noticed wet footprints leading from his backyard gate to the sidewalk. At first, he thought maybe it was the landscaper or a utility worker. But then he saw it, a dripping wet towel carelessly thrown over his fence. His pool's water level was lower, his float had been moved, and a half-empty soda can sat on his lounge chair. Someone had been in his backyard. He took a deep breath, trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe some kid jumped the fence and panicked when they got caught. But when he asked around, all he got were casual shrugs. "Oh, it's probably just one of the kids," one woman said with a laugh. "You know how they are." Another neighbor, a man in his 50s, barely looked up from his car as he muttered, "They're just having fun. You've got a nice pool, Mr. Reeves. People notice." The way he said it bothered Keanu, but he didn't push. He just tightened the lock on his gate and hoped it wouldn't happen again. But it did. A week later, he was sitting in his living room when he heard splashing. At first, he thought maybe he had left the pool filter running. Then came laughter. He walked to the back door and peeked outside. There in his pool was a teenage boy, casually swimming as if he owned the place. A girl, probably his sister, sat at the edge, dipping her feet in. Keanu flung the door open. "Excuse me?" The kids jerked up, eyes wide. The boy scrambled out of the water like a caught fish. I thought," he stammered, "we didn't think you'd mind." "You didn't think to ask?" Keanu snapped. "Who even are you?" The girl mumbled something about living 2 houses down before they bolted out the gate. Keanu stood there, dripping towel in hand, heart pounding. He wanted to let it go. But then came the excuses. The next day, he confronted the kids' parents, expecting an apology. Instead, he got an argument. "Oh, come on," the mother scoffed. "They're just kids. It's hot. What's the big deal?" Keanu stared at her, stunned. "The big deal," he said slowly, "is that this is my property, my home, my pool, and I don't remember giving out invitations." The father, arms crossed, muttered, "You're being dramatic." Dramatic. That was the word people loved to throw around when they weren't the ones being disrespected. Keanu bit back the words he really wanted to say. Instead, he installed security cameras, hoping they'd send a message. For a while, they did. For 2 weeks, there were no more footprints, no more wet towels, no more uninvited swimmers. Keanu thought maybe, just maybe, he had made his point. But then, on a scorching Saturday afternoon, he pulled into his driveway and noticed something strange. His side gate, the one he always kept locked, was slightly open. Keanu Reeves stiffened. A bad feeling crept up his spine as he walked around back. And there it was. His yard, packed with people, not just kids, grown adults, lounge chairs taken, beer bottles on the ground. Someone had even set up a folding table with snacks. And his pool? Full. A couple of women were wading waist-deep, chatting like it was their own backyard. A man leaned against the pool ledge, grinning as he sipped a drink. For a second, Keanu thought he had lost it. Was this real? He took a step forward, scanning the crowd. That's when he locked eyes with one of his neighbors, Sandra, from 3 houses down. Sandra, who had never spoken to him before, waved, like this was some casual get-together. "Hey, Keanu, hope you don't mind," she called out. "It was so hot today, we figured we'd cool off." Keanu's jaw tightened. Mind? Oh, he minded. His voice came out sharp and steady. Every single one of you, get out, now! Some people froze, others exchanged looks, like he was the one overreacting. Sandra scoffed. "Oh, don't be like that. It's just a pool. You weren't even home." Keanu stepped forward, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "It's not just a pool. It's my pool, my house, my yard. You don't live here. You don't pay for this. So get out, all of you." Someone muttered, "Geez, what's his problem?" That did it. Keanu stormed over to the pool equipment box, grabbed the remote, and shut off the pool filter. Then he yanked the power cord to the speakers. Silence. "I'm calling the police," Hine announced. That got them moving. Drinks were snatched, towels wrapped up, and in a matter of minutes, his yard emptied. Sandra, though, had the audacity to roll her eyes on the way out. "You don't have to be so uptight," she muttered. Nobody was hurting anything. Keanu wanted to scream. Instead, he stood stone-faced, watching as they shuffled out like nothing had happened. He slammed the gate behind them, locked it, and stood there, hands on his hips, fuming. But he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. These people had zero respect for him. And if respect wasn't going to stop them, something else would. Keanu had tried everything. Talking, reasoning, cameras, locks, none of it worked. So now, it was time to get creative. He sat at his kitchen table, staring at the security footage from earlier that day. The nerve of these people. The way they acted so entitled, like his property was theirs to use whenever they pleased. He wasn't just angry anymore. He was done. And if they wanted to keep treating his pool like the neighborhood water park, he was about to make sure their next visit would be their last. Step 1. Hardware store. Keanu picked up 2 heavy-duty locks, one for the side gate, one for the pool equipment box. The old ones were strong. These? Unbreakable. Step 2. A little chemical warfare. Not chlorine, something stronger. It wasn't dangerous, just a harmless but highly effective trick used by public pools to expose rule breakers. A little something called pool dye, a harmless chemical that turns the water bright green if someone pees in it. Yep, if even one of those freeloaders tried to use his pool again, they'd leave looking like a radioactive alien. Step 3. The ultimate psychological warfare. Keanu wanted insurance, something that would make them think twice before ever stepping foot in his yard again. So he went to a local sign shop and had a custom pool sign made. The next morning, he drilled it right onto his fence where everyone could see. Warning: pool chemically treated for unauthorized use. Exposure may cause rash, severe itching, or temporary skin discoloration. Did it sound a little extreme? Sure. Was any of it actually true? Nope. But they didn't know that, and just to sell it, Keanu placed an empty hazardous chemical container near the pump, something he picked up from a friend who worked in maintenance. Now all he had to do was wait, and it didn't take long. The next hot afternoon, he sat by his window, sipping iced tea, watching. For most of the day, it was quiet, until he saw them. A couple of teenagers walked past his fence. They stopped, read the sign. One of them whispered something, then pointed at the chemical container. Within seconds, they turned right back around and walked away. Keanu smirked. Later that night, Sandra, the same entitled neighbor from the last pool party, was walking her dog when she spotted the sign. She squinted at it, pulled out her phone, started typing. Keanu checked Facebook a few minutes later, and there it was, a neighborhood group post. FYI, looks like Keanu put some kind of weird chemical in his pool. Says it causes rashes and skin issues. Not sure how safe that is. Just a heads up. The comments rolled in. OMG, what if it leaks into the ground? That doesn't sound legal. Why does he even care so much? It's just water. Keanu laughed out loud. They weren't mad because he was lying. Not because they got caught, but because they realized their free ride was over. And if they wanted to test him, they were more than welcome to try. For the first time in months, Keanu finally felt at peace. No more random towels, no more strangers lounging in his yard, no more entitled attitudes. His plan worked, or at least he thought it did. Then came the knock. It was a Thursday evening when he heard it. Sharp, impatient banging on his front door. He set down his drink and peeked through the peephole. Sandra, arms crossed, looking pissed, Keanu sighed. Here we go. He opened the door, keeping his face calm. Yes? Sandra didn't waste time. We need to talk. Keanu raised an eyebrow. Do we? Sandra huffed. Look, I don't know what your problem is, but people are saying you put some kind of dangerous chemicals in your pool. Keanu blinked, then smirked. I did. His voice was smooth. To keep out uninvited guests. Sandra's jaw clenched. You can't do that. What if a kid touches the water? Keanu folded his arms. A kid who broke into my yard? Sandra faltered. That's not the point. It's exactly the point, Keanu shot back. I told people to stay out. They didn't listen. So I took precautions. Sandra scoffed. You're ridiculous. You don't even have kids. It's just sitting there going to waste. Keanu tilted his head. So because I don't have kids, that means my pool is up for public use? Sandra rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. Don't act like... Keanu cut her off. No, you come on, Sandra. You and the rest of these people have some nerve. You don't pay for my water bill. You don't clean my pool, but you expect to just help yourselves? Sandra's face turned red. Well, if you weren't so unfriendly, maybe people would actually like you. Keanu laughed, a deep, genuine laugh. That's your problem, Sandra. You think being liked means letting people walk all over you. Sandra opened her mouth, closed it, then shook her head in frustration. You know what? Forget it. She turned on her heel. Enjoy being the mean neighbor. Keanu called after her, grinning. Enjoy using your own hose this summer. Sandra stomped off. Keanu shut the door, smiling to himself. They were mad, but they had finally gotten the message. And just to be sure, he doubled down. The next morning, he added a final touch, a motion-activated sprinkler system along the fence. If anyone tried to sneak in again, they'd get a nice cold wake-up call. But the best part? He didn't even have to use it, because nobody tried again. The freeloading days were over. After months of frustration, Keanu had finally reclaimed his peace. The pool? His again. The backyard? Quiet. The entitlement? Gone. And the best part? He never even had to call the police, because that was never the goal. He wasn't trying to cause a scene or make enemies. He just wanted what was his to be respected. But here's the thing. Some people don't respect boundaries unless they're forced to. Keanu had tried to be nice. He had given warnings. He had even asked politely. And they had ignored him at every turn. But the second he flipped the script, they backed off. Because at the end of the day, people will take as much as you let them. It doesn't matter if it's your time, your space, your energy, or even your damn swimming pool. If you don't set boundaries, someone will walk all over you. So was Keanu petty for what he did? Maybe. But was he wrong? Not even a little. What about you? Have you ever had to stand your ground when people tried to take advantage of you? Or better yet, how would you have handled this situation? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. Thanks for watching, and remember, respect is earned, not given.